10 today. The Padres currently minus 145 on the money line. Dylan Cease will be going for the Padres. Brings in a record of 8-12 with a 4.64 ERA against Chad Patrick, who's 3-8 with a 3.66 ERA. Parking shouldn't slow you down. ParkWiz gives every driver a shortcut. Book ahead, save up to 50%, and skip the hassle of circling the block. Park smarter, park faster, ParkWiz. Download the ParkWiz app today and save every time you park.
Yeah, welcome in. It's San Diego Sports 760 on a Wednesday. Ben Fletcher, Sammy Long. We will carry you all the way up to 2 o'clock. John and Jim will take over then, and we got a lot of ground to cover between now and then, so let's get right to it. Darren Smith going to be jumping on the show today. Talk some SDFC, talk some Padres. That's coming up at 1:30. Our fantasy football expert, Stan Lazinski, dynastypricecheck.com. He's coming on at 12:30 today to answer all your start, sit, fantasy football questions ahead of week 4 in this NFL season. So get them in 70470. Start your message with team. If you have start, sit, fantasy football questions for Stan Lazinski, our fantasy expert, get them into the text line right now. He's jumping on at 12:30 today. All right, can the Padres just play every game hungover? Because yesterday looked pretty damn good for a Padres team who was partying late into the night a couple nights ago. Ryan O'Hearn, grand slam. Jose Iglesias, second home run in the last 2 days. Luis Ariz hits a home run last night. So two people who never hit home runs both hit homers in yesterday's game. And Randy Vasquez with an absolutely stellar start, maybe one of his best since he's become a Padre. That was a hell of a night down at Petco Park. Padres getting hot at hopefully the right time as you see both the Cubs and the Dodgers lose yesterday, which means the door's open, boys. The door's open to jump a spot in the National League wildcard race over the Chicago Cubs. Cubs are playing against the Mets. It was an offensive shootout yesterday between those two teams. We'll see what happens today as the Padres get the Brewers for one more. Is this a clean sweep of the Brewers? I certainly hope so. Did Randy Vasquez make some noise about the playoff rotation? Potentially. It's going to get crazy here over the next 4 games for the San Diego Padres, who just have 4 left in this regular season. But we'll see what happens with the Padres and with all the teams around them. Sammy Long, how was your night?
It was good. It was good. Yeah, the Padres, man. You see what happens when
7-0. Where'd that come from?
When they play with a lead, that's what the team was built on. Like that's what when you go make a move for Mason Miller, when you go trade a guy who could be a superstar in 3 years for a bullpen arm, this is why though, because you know that the bullpen can shut teams down. The problem there for a long stretch, the last really month before this Brewers series and the White Sox is the bats were not coming through early. We saw the grand slam in the first inning last night, and they were constantly chasing, and it felt like then Mike Schill had these weird decisions about, do you pitch the big arms out of the bullpen? What is the game close enough to where you're going to do that, and are the bats going to come through? And when the starting pitching staff can hold on to the point where it lets them get a lead, the bullpen it's tough to get around. I mean, I think for any team, hitting off the Padre bullpen is going to be a challenge in the postseason.
All right, so the Brewers were playing their dudes. They're still trying to lock up the 1 seed, and Randy Vasquez goes out there, 7 innings, 1 hit allowed, 3 strikeouts, just 2 walks. That was about as clean a performance Randy Vasquez has ever had. You tell me that's not number 2 or number 3 starter material?
Well,
is that a conversation?
I think it is interesting.
Like Mike Schilt has to at least be batting it around in his head, right?
Well, because it's not. So Dylan Cease, the telling part of this game is obviously want the Padres to win.
How many times this season has a Padres pitcher gone 7 innings, 1 hit, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks?
And you said something before the show. I know it's not sexy. Randy Vasquez his stuff isn't always the most electric swing and miss.
On the verge every single time he throws a ball because he throws a lot of balls and he does comfortable.
And he walks a lot, which is a problem in the postseason because we know in the postseason the pressure really mounts up and you don't want to be just giving especially teams with big power hitters chances to clear the bases. But Dylan Cease had a bad performance against the White Sox on Friday. He's going again today at 110. We're going to see, like, Dylan Cease is the guy that you would hope to give it to because when he's at his peak, he has some of the best stuff on the roster, but he hasn't shown you so far the last couple months that he's worthy of it. So this is a big start for Dylan Cease. Randy Vasquez, I think, should work in the rotation. I'm not saying he's certainly not your number 2 starter. I don't even think he's your number 3, but if these guys struggle, I mean, if you take away the name brand of Yu Darvish and Dylan Cease and you look at strictly what they've done, there's a shot to where you could argue that Randy Vasquez has a case to be the third starter for the Padres.
And if you kind of go through the list of who's been more important to the Padres this year and you go starting pitching, like Nick Pivetta is number one in terms of most important for the Padres, most valuable for the Padres this season. Randy Vasquez might be number two. With the inconsistencies of Dylan Cease, with Michael King's injuries, with Yu Darvish's inconsistencies and injuries, like Randy Vasquez might be number two in terms of who has provided the most valuable player at the pitching position for the Padres this year. It's got to be a conversation. I don't want to make that decision if I'm Mike Schultz. It's a tricky spot to be in because what if you're wrong? And what if Randy Vasquez goes out there in game 2 or game 3 against the Cubs at Wrigley Field and puts up an absolute stinker? You could absolutely see that coming too. But that guy who was pitching last night was clean, was in the strike zone, was dominant against a very, very good Brewers lineup. So it's got to be a conversation. It really does. All right, we're going to get to the big three early here. By the way, coming up tomorrow, every single hour on this show, on John and Jim's show, we're going to be giving away 2 separate pairs of tickets to SDFC's final home match coming up this Saturday. So if you're going to kind of tune in and out today, don't tune in and out tomorrow. Every hour, 2 pairs of tickets between noon and 6 o'clock will be given away to SDFC's final home match against San Jose coming up this Saturday at Snapdragon Stadium. Sammy, let's go ahead and get to the big three. Get your fantasy football questions in. 70470. Start your message with team. Stan Lazinski joining us at 12:30. Sammy, smash it.
Your lunch break is here. Ready to go back to the office and knock the socks off your friends? I mean, coworkers? It's time for the top stories of the day. The Big Three.
Couple ways for you to watch the show on X at Fletch and Sammy. You can find us there on YouTube at San Diego Sports 760. That one stays live from noon all the way to 6. Sammy, where we start in hour 1?
How about those Cowboys? Let's start there. So the return, Micah Parsons going back to Dallas to play Sunday Night Football. I mean, you couldn't have scripted this better for the NFL. The week 4, the ratings going to be through the charts, off the charts. Micah Parsons said yesterday, though, it's going to be painful sacking Dak Prescott. He looked up to him as a mentor. Where are we leaning in this game? Do we think Micah's going to go off in this game? Do we think Dak Prescott has a little bit of a big performance? Where are we leaning on this in the whole situation?
I actually think it's going to be a really good game. Now, that changes on a dime if Dallas can't stop Josh Jacobs. Dallas has shown their defense is about as porous as Swiss cheese. Hell, they made Russell Wilson look like Hall of Fame Russell Wilson. So if the Cowboys cannot stop the Packers offense, this thing is a blowout. If they show any sort of life defensively, if they can get up at all for this game, understanding the drama that went between these two teams this past offseason, maybe they can make it a game. Green Bay is a little overhyped at this point in the season. I think that a lot of people came back to earth with their loss to the Browns, even though it was a little bit of a quirky loss, like a blocked field goal. You can't always rely on something like that. But Green Bay was a little overhyped going into that game. Dallas, that defense is putrid, man. But if they can show any signs of life, maybe they make this a game. It's prime time, right? Sunday Night Football?
Sunday Night Football.
In Dallas?
Yeah.
Home dogs on primetime games. I don't know, man.
Interesting.
Home dogs on primetime.
I do think this is in a microcosm. The Packers are a much better team than Dallas, but it's interesting the differences in situation that they're in. Like, you look at the defense for the Packers, adding Micah Parsons. The defense for the Packers is going to be phenomenal for years to come. But then the major question for the Packers, and you saw them lose to the Browns last week, putting up only 10 points, is Jordan Love the guy? And is Jordan Love, he got paid like the guy, he's a good quarterback, but he hasn't really proven to us that he's a great quarterback yet. And is he going to go on the road and beat Jalen Hurts, beat Matthew Stafford, beat some of these elite Jared Goff in the NFC? Is he going to do that multiple times in a row? That the jury's still out on that. And then on the Dallas side, you got stars. You got Trayvon Diggs. You got CeeDee Lamb is out for this game. You got Dak Prescott, but the defense is an abomination. We had Jerry Jones trying to sell to us about how they're going to be better because they traded Micah Parsons. And now Jerry Jones could have went to the presser when he traded him and went, you know what? We understand we lost Micah Parsons, phenomenal player, but we think the draft picks as a whole is going to make us better in the future. He had the audacity to say earlier this week that they might trade those picks for a star player, which is the exact opposite. Jerry Jones can't get out of his own way. The one thing with the Micah Parsons trade is you could rebuild from the draft, which not the Padres. The Cowboys have actually done pretty good in the draft so far the last few years, but we'll see. It should be electric. I'm curious. This is going to be like,
I forgot CD was going to be out for this game.
This is going to be like
that changes things,
like
doesn't it?
When Luka went back to Dallas. This is going to be like that.
Yeah, but less so because Dallas was still at least kind of good when Luka went back. You know what I mean? The Cowboys without CeeDee Lamb, the offense becomes a shell of itself. I don't know if this is that much of a game.
All right, Drew Brees yesterday said on First Take, so we listed his top 5 offenses. He did not include the Eagles, and he said because even though they are a great team, the offense is boring.
He's right. Look, Sammy and I talked about this a little bit before the show, and I kind of had this in my head for next time Eagles are in primetime. But they are sort of like that UFC fighter that's just boring to watch but always wins. The Merab Dvalishvilis, the Khabibs, the guys who technically they're so perfect and cardio-wise they're so perfect that you're just not going to beat them, but it also doesn't make for a fun fight. And I think that's kind of what the Eagles have become. And part of that's the tush push. I think part of that's the annoyance everybody has with the tush push. But I also like it's not a high-powered, high-flying offense. You have like Saquon Barkley who's down to 60 yards a game and they're meaningful yards, but they're not anything crazy. You have 2 wide receivers who I think anywhere else in football are electric wide receiver ones, and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, but they don't really let Jalen Hurts throw the ball that much because they've worked out this formula that if they can just eat away the clock and just pick up 3 or 4 yards per play, they're going to be fine for the entire game. So Drew Brees is right. They are a boring team to watch play football, and I don't know that that's what the NFL wants as their team is just kind of walking through the postseason every time.
I'm with you. He's right, and it's not necessarily like the Philly's going to keep doing it as long as the tush push is allowed. They're winning. So I can't believe the 10 teams that voted for it. I'm surprised teams like the Lions and the Ravens, who don't even really run it, are doing it, especially when the Lions are going to have to see them probably in the NFC Championship game. They're kind of a lot like the Patriots. The Patriots dynasty a lot of the times was kind of boring. Like it wasn't very exciting. It was a lot of run. Brady hits Julian Edelman on a third down, and then Gronkowski, and then that defense with a bunch of guys that when they went and played elsewhere after the Bill Belichick era just weren't very good. But that's kind of what it was. He's right on this. I think this conversation is becoming even bigger with it's boring, it's this and that, because we see the Eagles who are starting to get frustrated with the fact that Jordan Mailata went on Philly radio last week and said he's tired of the narrative that the Eagles are only winning because of the tush push. I think the Eagles are a very good team. And on paper, they have 2 great receivers. They have the best running back in the NFL. They have a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But then when every third down or fourth down that's clutch and you rely on the tush push to get it, then yeah, I'm sorry, people are going to say it. Like, you know the way to stop people saying you only win with the tush push is don't run the tush push. And if you don't run the tush push and you still win, you'll shut everyone up, including us, and you'll go, well, kudos to the Eagles. And as of right now, they're still allowed to do it, but I'm very curious if this gets banned in the offseason, what they're going to look like next year, because everyone's going to be looking for it to see if their third down and fourth down conversions are at the same.
Jalen Hurts, big time listener to this show, so he definitely cares if we shut up about the tush push, whether or not it happens. All right, we got one more we can squeeze in here.
Yeah, we'll go to the Padres. We can do this more on the other side as well. So the Padres currently 1.5 games back of the Dodgers. Tanner Scott, the former Padre, blows another game for the Dodgers.
Most blown saves in baseball. 11
blown saves. He had 2 all of last season. Tanner Scott has been
How much money is he making, Sammy?
He's making $80 million
for 4 years.
For 4 years. 4 years. One of the highest paid reliever contracts of all time.
See, Dodgers just have too much money. I think we could put it at that.
Let's just tell you something. Our sister station, AM 570 up in LA, not too thrilled with Tanner Scott today. So hypothetical question. Text line, feel free to jump in here. 70470. Start your message with team. Let's say, would you rather have the Padres path of, let's say they jump the Cubs, okay? And then they get to host the Cubs at Wrigley. Or they get to host the Cubs in San Diego. The Cubs and then the Brewers, or win the division past the Dodgers, but maybe playing the Mets and then the Phillies.
I mean, I know my answer with this. My answer is avoid the Phillies at all costs, because I think the Phillies are, damn, they're scary in the postseason, man. With the clutch performers you have in Harper and in Schwarber, I don't know that anyone's going to outpower the Phillies. But also, you have to deal with the Mets, who, if you watch last night's game with the Mets and the Cubs, they came from behind and they used their power to win that game in a shootout. I think the final score was 9-7, something like that. So if it's me and I'm the Padres, I'm trying to overtake the Cubs, but not overtake the Dodgers, because you want that first series at Petco Park, and then you want the Brewers. Look at what the Padres have done to the Brewers this year. They beat them just about every time, if not every time. Did they sweep them in Milwaukee?
I believe it was 2 or 3.
2 of 3? That was a couple months ago now, and maybe my brain's not working quite right, but they're about to sweep them potentially today. I feel like the Padres have had a lot of success against the Brewers, and maybe that's matchup based. I don't know, but I'm avoiding the Mets. I'm avoiding the Phillies at all costs. It would be kind of nice to take care of the Dodgers in a early series, but who knows?
Now, I would tend to lean with you. I think it does rely on that you would get the Cubs in San Diego. Because I actually think, I mean, Cubs, like, going to Wrigley in a weird way might be tougher than going to Milwaukee because of what we've seen against this Milwaukee team, even though Milwaukee has been a much better team all season.
Well, and you'll get the Cubs' elite 2 pitchers right away, who I think are better than most pitchers on the Brewers.
Exactly. Right. Matthew Boyd and Shota Imanaga, those are 2 aces, even though they've struggled a little bit recently. And Wrigley's the same home field advantage like San Diego has, like Philly has. I'm with you. I think the Phillies, if you had to pick one team that would go win the whole thing out of the NL, I think the Phillies are the most complete team of any of them. They have the star power. They have a great closer. They have a really good bullpen and an excellent starting pitching staff. Every other team has a flaw. Padres starting pitching's garbage. The Dodgers bullpen is an atrocity. I mean, and then Milwaukee, you look at, I don't think the week off or the half a week off is going to help them because you're talking about momentum. Milwaukee is not a team that has proven nothing. Remember, Pete Alonso, they were about to beat the Mets last year in the wild card. Pete Alonso blasts that 3-run home run, and they upset him in game 3. So Milwaukee has a lot to prove because they have the best record, but at the same time, they don't have a lot of stars, and you're kind of worried about what's going to happen there. The Padres have proven they can play well against them. I think staying where you're at in a weird way, if you can get past the first series in Chicago, would be a big deal. I think you would have a better second round matchup than the Dodgers would have against the Phillies.
All right, let's take a quick break here. We got tomorrow, every single hour on this show, 2 per hour, pairs of tickets to SDFC's final home match of the season this weekend against San Jose, the Earthquakes, at Snapdragon Stadium Saturday night. So make sure you're listening to All Show tomorrow. Today, D. Smith is going to be jumping on at 1:30 to talk some SDFC, talk some Padres. Our fantasy football expert at 12:30 today. So get your questions in. A bunch of them already filling up on the text line 70470. Start your message with team. Quick break here. Back to the Padres we go. Coming up next, it's San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. San Diego Sports 760. Ben Fletcher, Sammy Long with you till 2:00 today. John and Jim will take over then. San Diego Sports 760 and iHeartRadio bring you the Global Citizen Festival 2025 live from New York City at Central Park's Great Lawn. Live performances from The Weeknd, Shakira, Tyla, and more, all hosted by Wolverine himself, Hugh Jackman. Join the movement to end extreme poverty now, one action at a time at globalcitizenfestival.com. Check out Global Citizen Radio all day on the iHeartRadio app or listen to Hit Nation Saturday at 7 p.m. All right, couple things here before we get back to the Padres. First of all, Sammy, your long shots lineup yesterday defied all gravity, defied odds. It was like we were living in the twilight zone.
It might be the greatest thing we ever did.
I feel like the lineup got refunded essentially. So if you put $5 down on it, you got all $5 back. However, explain to everybody what happened last night because it was amazing.
So I had a 3-leg entry. I had Tarek Skubal. I had Christian Javier from the Astros and Brandon Pfaadt pitching for the Diamondbacks. The Pfaadt number was at 4 strikeouts. The Javier number was at 4 strikeouts, and Skubal was at 8 strikeouts. I put under on Skubal and over on the others. They hit 8, 4, and 4. So they hit their numbers. They didn't go above or less.
That should have been like a 10x payout.
Like honestly, I didn't win. I didn't lose. But if you're able to do that, I think Prize Picks should throw in a little bonus.
I think so too, man. That was almost more impressive than actually winning. Like all 3 of them right on the nose. Kind of amazing. I
was watching a little bit of the Dodger game. I was like, Foz had 4 strikeouts. I'm like, is this really going to happen?
That's
like,
crazy.
Yeah. Like, hey,
did you see any of Skubal, his start?
I saw what you sent me about him smashing the dude in the face, the 99-mile-per-hour fastball.
So it was David Fry who turned a bunt. And if you haven't seen this video, don't go looking for it. It's tough to watch, man. But David Fry turns to bunt and Skubal throws it 99, never hits the bat, just hits David Fry straight in the face. And Skubal immediately throws down his hat, throws down his glove. It looks like he's about to cry or vomit or both because I think he thought in that moment, he's like, I just killed David Fry. It was tough to watch, man. Fry just lays down flat on his back. Looks like he's dead for about 5 minutes.
You know what I love is how then the TV crew, they're just zooming in on his face the entire time.
So they like zoom and somebody got a moment, like the moment the ball hit him in the face and the way his face completely transforms. It looks like something out of a like Ridley Scott movie, dude. It was tough to watch yesterday. I hate stuff like that, but sounds like he's okay. He walked off and then got carted off. But craziness. Skubal throws too hard for human faces to handle. All right, back to the Padres. We brought up something kind of interesting, and it's worth talking about. Like, where do you want to see them land in this postseason? Because right now they're a game and a half back of the Cubs, game and a half back, really 2.5 games back of the Dodgers. But you look at the 2 sides of the National League bracket, and at least me personally, I feel a little more comfortable where they're at right now with the Cubs and the Brewers on their side rather than the Dodgers, Mets, Reds, Diamondbacks, whoever it ends up being on that side, and then waiting for them, the Phillies as the 2 seed. I would feel better having some sort of deal where you're going through the Cubs and then the Brewers to meet whoever you're meeting in the NLCS. I feel like that's a much better path forward for the Padres. So maybe overtaking the Cubs but not overtaking the Dodgers is the best case scenario for the Padres.
I think the biggest thing is if you can find a way, whether it's the wild card or the division, if you can find a way to get it at Petco, it's a big deal because it really is a home field advantage. In everyone wants it at their home, but we see the Padres play much better at home than they do on the road, and we know why. It's loud as hell. It's a tough place to play. I mean, I know people get upset down here, but Mookie Betts talked about it. He's like, shout out to San Diego. He's like, you guys support your team. He's like, that is a loud, tough environment to play in, and it does affect the other team. So I think especially against the Cubs, when you look at both teams and how the Cubs are founded on the bats. The Cubs bullpen is not where you'd like it to be. If you're a Cubs fan, the Padres have a massive advantage there. They have an advantage in the starting rotation. And then it kind of comes down to who's going to show up. Is it going to be Tatis? Is it going to be Machado? Pete Crow Armstrong started out fantastic for them and then really kind of fell off a cliff. Kyle Tucker has been excellent for them. So they're really about hitting the ball out of the park. And then also you kind of get into like, if they're playing at Wrigley, is it going to be a day game? I mean, that's going to be a tough environment to play in. If there's a way they can get a home series, I think they should do it. Now, looking at the lineup today, Manny Machado was like in an interview and was keeping it open that he wants to get a wild, or he wants to try to one up the Cubs and get a home field series, and then try to get the Dodgers. I'm curious how Mike Schultz going to manage this, because there's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching, because the Dodgers win tonight and the Cubs are winning tonight. If the Dodgers win the next 2 games, it's really the division's over. Now, if they were to lose and the Padres were to win, then it becomes a real discussion. And then also, do you want to burn this bullpen all weekend? I mean, do you want to, because part of you is like, the bullpen is what this team is founded on. I don't want to burn their arms out, giving them a little bit of rest, especially when you're going to a wild card series next week. It's a weird managing position about how, whether if they're out of it, they're just resting their guys. But if they're in it and they don't end up passing the Cubs or the Dodgers, it could be the worst thing to happen to them. So the next 5 days is going to be very telling about how Mike Schultz manages this baseball team.
We do have the lineup for today, and then we take a quick break here for our fantasy expert. Manny Machado is back in the lineup after having the day off yesterday, the hangover day, which the Padres played great in. O'Hearn back in the lineup. Good to see after the grand slam yesterday. And this looks like the playoff lineup minus Tatis. So that's what you're dealing with right now for the Padres. All right, coming up next, Stan Lazinski becoming a quick favorite on this show, our fantasy football expert, dynastypricecheck.com. If you got fantasy questions for Stan, hit us up on the text line 70470. Start your message with team. Start, sit, week 4. Coming up next, San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. Hey, it's Fletch for Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use promo code Fletch. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, because on Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Hey, today is a Wednesday, which that's not a Taco Tuesday. That's not a Flex Friday. Discounts are still on the board. Lightning bolts on the board right now for Blake Snell, 3.5 pitcher strikeouts. You can take advantage of that while it lasts. Football is here. Football and Prize Picks go together like peanut butter and jelly, like peanut butter and marshmallows, like marshmallows and chocolate. Prize Picks and football go together really well is what I'm trying to say. Every game matters. You don't want to miss a moment this season with Prize Picks. Your favorite players, your least favorite players are ready to go, and the season is underway. You can cash in on their stats. Pick more than or less than on at least 2 players for a shot to win big. Boom. You've got action here in California, where it's tough to get action. Believe me, I know. Prize Picks makes it fun, quick, and easy. You can build your lineup in under a minute while you're settling in on the couch, getting ready for kickoff or first pitch. Prize Picks the best spot to get sports action. Join the millions of people who are already playing. Get a part of the billions of dollars already awarded in winnings. We're going to give you a lineup coming up at 12:45 today, because on Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
This sport is sponsored by Hamul Casino. Padres getting going here at 110 today for looking for the sweep over the Milwaukee Brewers. They're currently minus 145 on the money line. Chad Patrick will be going for the Brewers, and Dylan Cease will be going for the Padres. An outside linebacker from Georgia, Nolan Smith, is out through the Eagles' November bye week per sources Adam Schefter. Hey, player, the all-new Hamul Casino Resort is all for you. Enjoy a super luxe hotel experience, a super secret speakeasy, an indulgent spa, and an epic rooftop pool. Book your experience at hamulcasino.com.
San Diego Sports 760. Ben Fletcher, Sammy Long with you till 2 o'clock. John and Jim will take over then. Our fantasy expert has been nailed so far this season. His name is Stan Lazinski. You can find him at dynastypricecheck.com, streaming live on TikTok almost every night, or actually every night, at Dynasty Price Check. Find him there. But Stan Lazinski, he's been on fire. He joins us once again today. Stan, how we doing after week 3?
Doing great, my man. Great to be back on with you guys. We had a barn burner of a Monday Night Football game. That was fun, eh?
That was a lot of fun, man. Really, all primetime games so far, outside of like maybe that Falcons game, have been really fun. But as we continue on here, heading forward to week 4, let's get started by talking about some sleepers who might still be sitting out there on the waiver wire. Who do you got for us?
Yeah, of course, guys. I mean, on this one, it's probably got to be looking at the quarterbacks with all the injuries we got. Jackson Dart is available in a lot of leagues, and Russell Wilson's getting the old benching. Tough to see my boy from Seattle, who had all those good years, fall from grace so quickly. But I think if you've been dealing with the Joe Burrow injury and a lot of other folks out there, and you need a spot start at quarterback this week, Jackson Dart's available in over 60% of leagues. You might as well take a swing on him.
How do you think he's going to do fantasy wise, Jackson Dart? Like, does his skill set translate for fantasy football owners?
Now, I will say, I was not a big Jackson Dart guy out of college, and I do have my skepticism there, but he is a gunslinger and he likes to run the football. So this looks like, to me, a lot like a Jameis Winston situation where I expect 275 plus passing and rushing yards, but I also expect at least 2 picks, right? So it's pick your poison here. He's going to get out there and get some action, but there's going to be mistakes along the way. So I think you probably lean a little bit on the rushing upside. Hopefully he can get you through the week. But for my fantasy quarterback needy teams out there, Jake Browning gave you 3 points last week when I know a lot of people were relying. Michael Penix ended up negative. I mean, I can't be too choosy at this point in fantasy football. We got to take what we can get.
Who are you more nervous about? Marvin Harrison Jr., who was dropping passes left and right, or Terry McLaurin, who's had a leg injury pop up this week?
Marvin Harrison Jr., man, I think especially from a dynasty point of view, which I talk about all the time, but even in redraft, this guy looks like a wide receiver 2 that could potentially have wide receiver 1 weeks where he's going to boom, right? But this drop passes, the lack of focus, his inability to create separation over the middle of the field and have any connection with Kyler Murray. This guy looks like a guy I'm benching for a Cortland Sutton from this point forward. I mean, Marv is not someone I'm relying on.
It's a good thing Sammy and I definitely don't have him in a season-long parlay where he needs to score a bunch of touchdowns, but that's a story for another day. Some of the questions from the text line, by the way, Stan Lazinski, you find him at dynastypricecheck.com or on TikTok at dynastypricecheck, is our fantasy football expert, joins us every week. From the 760, Stan, we got start-sit question for you. Quinshon Judkins, Romeo Doubs, Troy Franklin for my flex.
Absolutely Quinshon Judkins on this one. Now, my man comes out here after all the allegations in the offseason and bursts onto the scene, has a real coming out party, 18 carries, 94 yards, a touchdown. And the real icing on the cake that I like seeing out of Quinshon Judkins this weekend was him breaking a tackle, throwing a stiff arm, and staring Micah Parsons down in the face and saying, "Come at me." That's a dog. He wants the action. I'm putting him in every lineup this week. Quinshon Judkins is the lock.
What does that mean for Dylan Sampson owners? Is he kind of irrelevant now, or is he good handcuff?
Absolutely. I mean, Dylan Sampson was already a very fringe flex play in deeper formats because you're simply relying on him only for the receiving upside. But I think from this point forward, unless you're sustaining an incredible amount of injuries, Dylan Sampson's a hold and wait unless anything happens to Judkins.
All right, Stan, I texted you this one so you have all the names in front of you, but this is our buddy from the 615, who his name's Budweiser Scott. Hell of a dude. He's struggling right now in fantasy. So he has Brian Thomas Jr., Jamar Chase, Calvin Ridley, Ricky Pearsall, Debo Samuel, Cortland Sutton, and Troy Franklin, and he doesn't know what to do. Can you pick 3 for him to start this week?
I absolutely can. I'm going to play Cortland Sutton here. He's coming off a great week, and it looks like he's primed to repeat as a very relevant player. He had a 50% target share last week with an 8 out of 14.5. And honestly, he's going up against an 18th ranked pass defense this week. So I think you got to be playing Sutton there. Jamar Chase, this is a burner because absolutely he's dealing with the quarterback issue, but you drafted him too high to ever bench him. So you got to be playing Jamar Chase as well. Now, finally, my last reasoning is he's debating here between Brian Thomas Jr. and Ricky Pearsall. And unfortunately, until I see a step up in performance from Brian Thomas Jr., I think I'm going to lean with Ben Fletcher's 49ers here and give him to slot in Ricky Pearsall after a great performance this last week.
Oh, no. Now we're going to hear about that for the rest of the day from Fletch.
I mean, Ricky Pearsall, he just has hands that are like soft cotton. You just fall right into it.
Oh, God. Sam, what do you make of the second-year quarterbacks? Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., Drake May. Are any of those 3 worth starting in fantasy moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think Drake May is still worth starting simply because the rushing upside and the lack of overall pass volume. I mean, you do see in Stephon Diggs, who we thought was going to be the alpha, and I still have faith in to have a second half of the season breakout once this Pats schedule lightens up a little bit after they get through their divisional matchups here. But at the same time, I think outside of that, Michael Penix was a huge letdown, a guy I loved and still have faith in for the long haul. But at this point, I think we got to just be playing Drake May if you don't have a lot of other options for the rushing upside. But Bo Nix and Penix are falling to the bench for me for the immediate future.
All right, here's our guy from the 858. I'll go slow here. This is a flex spot question. Chase Brown, Travis Etienne, Trey Benson, DJ Moore, Jacoby Myers for a flex in week 4. If you need me to rip through them again, I can.
No, I think honestly, for this one, I am going to lean Jacoby Myers. I think the real thing that we're seeing here with the Raiders is that, one, their defense is awful. And they're the 30th ranked pass defense. They're allowing 312 yards per game on average through these first 3 weeks. That just tells me that they're going to be playing from behind or it's going to be a close game. And so because that reason alone, I like the volume you're going to get out of Jacoby Myers there. Chase Brown makes me super nervous. And Travis Etienne has a quite tough matchup this week against the San Francisco 49ers stout defense that has been holding teams to a low amount of points. First Seattle, then Arizona. You know, they're definitely looking up to the challenge.
619's asking, so rookie running backs, Ja'Cory Krosky, Merritt, Austin Eckler gets hurt, Najee Harris hurt, now then Amari and Hampton. Hampton or Merritt, who would you rather go with there?
Oh, definitely Hampton. I mean, the volume that you're seeing out of Amari and Hampton now that that Najee Harris has taken an unfortunate injury is incredible. He gets the 19 carries last week, but the more notable ones for my PPR players out there is Amari Hampton had 7 targets, catches 6 of those passes, goes for 59 yards. I think Amari and Hampton, this is the breakout we were looking for, an unfortunate circumstance that's going to open the door for him. He's a must start from this point forward.
Sounds like Zach Charbonnet is going to be healthy for week 4, but that Seattle backfield is just such a question mark with Kenneth Walker and him, because at times when they're both on the field, Charbonnet looks better than Kenneth Walker does, but Kenneth Walker still seems to get the volume. So if you have one of the two, which one do you feel better about this week?
Yeah, I'm sticking with Kenneth Walker. I've been riding him the whole season, and, you know, he gives you the disappointing performance week 1, but since then, he's finished as a top 10 back-to-back weeks with 18.75 points this last week, 2 touchdowns. And I'll level with you. The 16 carries for 38 yards, it's not a great metric. So, you know, he is bailing you out with the touchdowns here. But I think until anything changes, I'm expecting a blow-up game from Kenneth Walker in the next couple weeks here. And I expect him to go just like last week for over 100 yards. He's got that ability any given week. So we got to lean Kenny.
The 949's asking for their flex spot, Tyler Warren, Trey Tucker, or Jerry Jeudy. Where would you lean there?
I'm going to go Tyler Warren on this one. I love what I'm seeing out of this Colts offense. They're continuously getting out there and putting up points. Danny Dimes seems to be the real deal. And Tyler Warren's just becoming so involved in this passing game. He's even taken a couple occasional snaps out of the backfield. I love what I'm seeing out of Tyler Warren.
I hesitate to even ask this question, Stan, but it was on our text line last week and we didn't get to it. How many fantasy teams do you have right now?
I am in 27 leagues,
Oh my
primarily
God.
dynasty leagues.
Oh,
So definitely require a lot of attention.
Wait,
that's fantastic.
27, like in Dynasty, for those of you that don't know, that's where you're keeping your whole team every year. You're only drafting rookies. So you're actually like kind of a general manager of a football team. I mean, it's exhausting. What kind of social life you got, Stan?
Minimal right now, my friend. In fact, some of these leagues are actually contract leagues, which means the salary cap is also involved. So not only do you manage them like Dynasty, but you got to manage the money in the contracts you give these players. Believe me, I am seeing a lot less of my friends this season than normal.
What's your 27 leagues? What's your favorite league to be in? Are you like full PPR, half PPR, dynasty? Like what's your ideal kind of league?
Yeah, of course. I actually got a video about this on my YouTube, so you can head over there and check out how I suggest you play fantasy football. But my favorite format is a dynasty superflex start 11 full point PPR. 2 tight end starting spots, tight end premium 1.75. I know it's a mouthful, but that is my format and I love it. That's how I spend up all my listener leagues. And so if you're following me on my platforms and you hop into my Discord and want to play in a league with me, that's typically what you're going to be seeing.
Find all of that at dynastypricecheck.com. What time are you streaming live tonight, Stan?
Absolutely. We'll be on at 6:30 p.m. tonight. Hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, can we get a Fletch Zone infiltration to Stan's TikTok stream tonight?
I'll be there tonight.
Yeah, let's all jump in and let's what do you get on TikTok? Roses? Is that how you make your money?
Yeah, the roses, the sunglasses, the cowboy hats, whatever floats your boat.
Cool. We'll try it all tonight. All right. Thank you, Stan. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you guys, man. Have a great week.
Stan Lazinski, just dominating the fantasy football. 27 leagues is crazy, man. 27 leagues is insane. Imagine trying to go on a date. Meanwhile, you're checking your 27 different fantasy football leagues.
I love that dude, man.
That's too much. That's too much, is what I'm saying. All right, San Diego Sports 760. Quick break here. Long shots on the other side. You're listening live on the iHeartRadio app. 27 is crazy. Hey, it's Fletch for Gary Cooper at Mountain Trust Mortgage and Realty. You can visit Gary online at mountaintrustmortgage.com or give him a call today at 858-376-1299. Gary, I got a friend who's looking to pull some cash out of his house to pay off some debts. What would you recommend for him?
Well, it all depends on his current circumstances because everybody's pretty unique. If he has already a really low fixed rate mortgage, rather than touch that, he can tap into his equity with a second mortgage. And I have 3 different products. You can do the traditional home equity line of credit, which isn't my favorite because it's a revolving account, accumulates interest on its average daily balance. I have your traditional fixed rate loans, and I also have one that's a blend of the two, where it's a fixed rate the entire time of the loan. You can draw on it like a home equity line of credit, but you're always paying principal and interest based on that balance that you're currently holding. And then after 3 years of utilizing that home equity line of credit, it then becomes frozen. And if it, again, fixed rate for the rest of the term of the loan. So it all depends on what their current interest rate is at. But I think right now is still a good time to take out a second and let's see down the future if rates maybe come down a little bit further where it makes sense to do it as a cash out refinance on your first.
Call Gary Cooper today, 858-376-1299. He has more options and more solutions to consolidate debts and unlock the equity in your home. Give Gary Cooper a call, 858-376-1299, or visit him online at mountaintrustmortgage.com. Yes, indeed. Darren Smith going to be joining the show coming up at 1:30. We'll talk some SDFC with the color analyst on the call. Beginning Monday, San Diego Sports 760. We got 13 chances for you to win $1,000 every single weekday with a bonus bucks giveaway every hour from 6 a.m. through 5 p.m. beginning Monday, September 29th. Listen for the keyword, enter it at sportsSD.com. Win yourself $1,000. That sounds nice to me. This will start Monday at 6 a.m. All right. Couple of texts here before we get to long shots. From the 760. I watched the Mets game last night with my dad, who's the biggest Mets fan ever. That was a pretty cool comeback. Yeah, it helped the Padres out a lot last night because the Cubs are playing against the Mets.
It all happened in one inning too.
Crazy. And that's why the Mets are terrifying to play in the postseason, by the way, because they have that kind of game-changing power that can all happen in one inning. 858, can you guys help out with the iHeartRadio listeners by giving us a time to call in for the ticket giveaway? I believe you're referring to the SDFC tickets, which are coming up tomorrow. We got 2 per hour. You're going to have to listen for a sounder for those, so stay tuned for that. But today, 858, let me just reach into my little bag of prizes here and see what we're giving away. How about some UB40 tickets? They're going to be playing Cal Coast Credit Union Open Air Amphitheater on October 4th. UB40, you know, red wine.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. If you want pair of tickets to that, why don't we give it time for this one? Let's go 1256. All right, so if you're on the free iHeartRadio app at 1256, caller number 7 at 877-767-4760, you'll get those tickets at 1256 because there's a little delay on the app. Sometimes it helps if we give out a time. That makes sense to everybody. Sammy, are you ready to go for long shots?
I am ready to go.
All right, we got some comments on YouTube from our buddy Tyler begging you to throw some tennis picks into this lineup because Sammy don't miss on tennis.
Guess what we're tapping into today?
It needs to be studied.
The Japan Open Championship.
Like studied in a lab how good Sammy is at tennis because it doesn't really make sense. It feels like you have some sort of inside track.
Don't get me on the hard court out there. All right.
Do you talk to Carlos Alcaraz and
Carlos, Yannick, and I, and our boy Taylor Fritz right down the road here, Rancho Santa Fe alum.
About Tiafoe, who's always wearing the Lulu?
Francis, that's my favorite tennis player. Francis Tiafoe, the big foe. We did the U.S. Open and the French Open. Roland Garros were very kind of long shots.
Like people talk a lot of smack about long shots, but can I just remind everybody of it was like a week in May and then a week in June where Sammy did not miss for an entire week.
I went 15 for 15 on tennis picks.
That's debatable. I think
but the MLB sold me.
The text line called you on your tennis picks not being 100%.
You know what?
Like 90% still an A.
The text line was saying a lot of things. They were pulling up random days about how I missed then, but I don't really remember any of those. I feel like some of those were made up. I'm not gonna lie.
Let's get to long shots today. Sammy, go ahead and smash it.
You looking for some luck? Want to win big? Gotta play big.
You are so money, you don't even know it.
Time to take a chance.
Play that man his money.
With long shots.
All right, if you want to, we play on Prize Picks for long shots.
We love Prize.
Just what we do, and you could use promo code Fletch and get a $50 bonus. That'd be pretty cool. After you play your first $5 lineup, this could be that first $5 lineup. So, Sammy, why don't we go ahead and rip it?
All right, so we can do the free lightning bolt is Blake Snell over 3.5 pitching strikeouts against the Arizona Diamondbacks. His normal number on Prize Picks is 6.5. I think this is very manageable. Blake Snell, arguably for the last month, has been the best pitcher for the Dodgers. So I think he gets that easy one right there, 3.5. Now,
That'd be so cool of Blake Snell to just screw over San Diego and not get that.
I'm doing something that I don't think Fletch is going to like.
Uh-oh.
We're betting on a Padres starting pitcher.
Uh-oh.
And I'm going to tell you why. We're going Dylan Cease today. We're going more than 6 pitcher strikeouts. And I know Dylan Cease has been pretty rough recently. And that Friday game against the Chicago White Sox was very disappointing. But let's think about the motivation going through Dylan Cease's head as he gets through as the game starts here in about 16 minutes. So make sure you want to get this in on Prize Picks. He's pitching to be that number 2 or 3 starter. Mm-hmm. If he plays like he did against Chicago today and they lose this game, or at least he just plays bad, there's a real conversation that we're having tomorrow in the entire city of San Diego about where's this guy at in the rotation? Because we know Nick Pivetta is the one. Michael King, albeit it was against the White Sox, pitched better on Sunday. He's going to be a part of the rotation. Randy Vasquez was excellent yesterday. We know what Yu Darvish can do in a limited sample. If he goes out there and is atrocious today, Dylan Cease is not only pitching for a job in the starting rotation tonight, he's pitching for a massive contract next year. So I think Dylan Cease has a big performance today, more than 6 pitcher strikeouts against Milwaukee. We're putting some faith in Dylan.
You're right. I don't like that pick, but I'm going to do it anyways. Hashtag Faith and Sammy.
Hashtag Faith and Sammy. All right, we're gonna go to Boston. Garrett Crochet, the ace for the Boston staff, more than 6.5 pitcher strikeouts. He's a lefty. Going against Toronto, the Blue Jays are out here distracted. I got George Springer on podcast talking about how the MLB is rigging it for the Yankees. They did not feel locked into me. Garrett Crochet is a really talented pitcher coming over from the White Sox last year. He is the ace for this staff, and then they're locked in a tight race there. They got the Tigers right there. I believe the Astros are right in it for that second wild card spot. The Yankees already clinched. So the Red Sox currently have one game up on all three of them. But this is a very important game against Toronto Blue Jays. I think Garrett Crochet shows out more than 6.5 strikeouts for Crochet. And then we're going to tennis.
Where's the tennis pick?
Because Tyler asked. And when Tyler asks, he gets. Okay? Taylor Fritz, the local kid, Ranger Santa Fe. We're going 23 total games. We're going less than. He's playing at 8:30 tonight. His last performance, he had an excellent match in the U.S. Open against Nova. That went 40 total games. Pretty bad taste in his mouth. Taylor Fritz is like the best of the not top tier tennis players. Like no one can beat Alcaraz in center, and then you have Djokovic who's 3, and then you're in that conversation of Fritz. You're in that conversation for a lot of these players. I think Taylor Fritz on the primetime court in Japan at the Open Championship tonight. I know everyone will be tuned into that. We're going 23 total games, less than. Rancho Santa Fe, Taylor Fritz coming through for us in straight sets. You heard it here first.
All right, rip through it one more time.
Taylor Fritz, less than 23 total games. Blake Snell, lightning bolt, more than 3.5 pitcher strikeouts. Garrett Crochet for the Red Sox, more than 6.5 pitcher strikeouts. Dylan Cease, more than 6 pitcher strikeouts today. Get it in because the game starts in about 15 minutes.
All right, people are already calling for those UB40 tickets. Caller number 6 or 7, is going to be getting those. 877-767-4760. Coming up in hour number 2, Darren Smith going to be jumping on the show at 1:30 to preview SDFC's final home match and talk about their chances in the postseason. All of that coming up in hour number 2 on San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app.
This sport is sponsored by ChooseChangeCA.org. Dylan Cease will be going against Chad Patrick today here in about 10 minutes as the Padres try to sweep the Milwaukee Brewers this week. The Padres currently minus 145 on the money line with the total set at 7.5. And star pass rusher Nolan Smith for the Eagles has a triceps injury and will be out through the Eagles bye week, which is at week 9. Addiction to drugs, including opioids and stimulants, can strip away the things that make you uniquely you. Recover your life. Choose a proven drug addiction treatment option that's right for you. Recover you at ChooseChangeCA.org.
It's hour number 2 here on San Diego Sports 760. Ben Fletcher, Sammy Long with you till 2. John and Jim will take over then. Coming up in about 30 minutes, Darren Smith is going to join the show. We'll talk some SDFC. We'll talk some Padres. They'll be in progress by that time. But Sammy's long shots just, what'd you say?
What did I say?
Did you say something?
No.
This show had been going so smooth until that point.
I didn't have my mic on. How did I say something?
I thought I heard you say something. I apologize. Good starts to the hour, boys. Francisco just won those tickets to UB40. Congrats to him. If you missed it earlier today, we announced that tomorrow, every single hour from noon to 6 on this station, we're going to be giving out multiple pairs of tickets to go see SDFC's final home match of the season. That's what it was. It was the music. It was Sammy.
You know what? We're composing. We had a very good first hour after Kevin Acey's spicy interview yesterday.
That was
which
crazy, dude.
Really took San Diego by storm. Saw a lot of Twitter on it about Kevin Acey's just inner mind thoughts coming out. Please go back to the podcast yesterday and check that out if you have not. It's an interesting interview.
It was crazy. All right, so 747. This coming off of news from yesterday. Text into the show says, so is Johnny 5 going to be umpiring games next year? Sorry, Sammy, before your time. Truth be told, this was before my time too. This was the 80s. But do you know what Johnny 5 is?
Gonna be honest, I do not.
So it was terrible movies, but they were about a robot named Johnny 5. I think they were called Short Circuit. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. Could be wrong, but Johnny 5 is a little robot who would just go around doing robot things. But no, so a lot of people confused about this because Major League Baseball announced yesterday that robo-umps will be approved for 2026. And while that's true, it's not really what it sounds like. There's not going to be a Johnny 5 or a Megatron standing behind home plate calling balls and strikes. It's just the ABS system. It's the automatic balls and strikes. It's the challenge system, though. Each team's going to get 2 challenges per game. Believe it or not, I had to explain this in excruciating detail to Travis Dale this morning, who thought there was going to be robots behind home plate calling games, calling safe or out, balls or strikes, everything like that. It's going to be exactly what we saw in spring training earlier this year, where a batter or a pitcher or a catcher can hit their helmet immediately following a pitch, challenging whether a strike that was called a ball was a strike or a ball that was called a strike is a ball. That's all it is. No robots on the field. Unfortunately, maybe we'll get there by, I don't know, 2035 or something. All right, Sammy, hour number 2. We have an amazing slate of college football games coming up this weekend.
Fantastic.
We have some really good NFL games coming up this weekend. We have the Ryder Cup coming up this weekend. Come on, America. Let's go, boys.
Hell yeah.
We got a huge soccer match here in San Diego. We got the Padres in their final home series of the season, their final series of the regular season against the D-backs this weekend. We got San Diego State in primetime college football, 12:30 this Saturday against Northern Illinois. I don't know how we're going to wrap all this up over the next 3 days, but we're going to do our damnedest. I promise you that. Let's get to the big 3 of hour number 2 here. San Diego Sports 760. Sammy, smash it.
Your lunch break is here. Ready to go back to the office and knock the socks off your friends? I mean, coworkers? It's time for the top stories of the day. The Big 3.
Sammy, where are we going, hour 2?
All right, we're going college football and NFL with this one. So Arch Manning was the surefire number 1 pick heading into the season, according to all the ESPN draft scouts. It has not looked as smooth as everyone thought it would be. Now that there's a lot of time to change that, obviously. But per ESPN, as of a few hours ago, NFL scouts are now seeing Drew Aller, the quarterback at Penn State, as the potential number 1 pick in next year's draft class. Now, this comes ahead of Penn State, Oregon, one of the biggest showdowns of the weekend, and Penn State hasn't really played anybody yet so far on the schedule. Of the quarterbacks so far, where do you see Arch Manning, Drew Aller? Is there any quarterback in college football that stood out to you so far that you think could be a high pick in next year's draft?
I mean, honestly, it's unfortunate because a lot of guys have fallen off. Like Klubnik, I would have had way up there going into the season, but Clemson's been bad and Klubnik has been bad. Drew Aller just hasn't messed anything up so far this year. You're right, though. He hasn't really had any huge wins. I mean, they beat Villanova, they beat Nevada, they beat FIU. this weekend's going to be a huge test. But we've seen so much of Drew Aller, and we've seen him perform at such a high level that it's almost the comfortable pick right now. Doesn't that make sense? Like, he's almost the safe one heading into this year's draft. Now, if Arch turns it on and catches fire in the second half of the season, I don't think he's kissed away the Heisman yet. I don't think any of that. And I think he absolutely could propel himself back up in the draft. But for right now, it makes sense. Drew Aller would be the safest pick at quarterback in the draft because you have more film on him. You've seen him in bigger situations. He's always performed pretty well, and he's playing pretty well so far this year. Huge test for him this weekend against Oregon.
I'm excited to see Aller because he's a lot like JJ McCarthy to me.
Yeah.
He was a top recruit coming out, and everyone loves the intangibles, and he can throw the deep ball a mile. But from what I've seen of Drew Aller, now Penn State doesn't always recruit the best receivers. That's kind of been the one bugaboo of Penn State is that James Franklin doesn't get them. He gets fantastic running backs, great pass rushers, but he never really goes out and gets your 5-star receiver. They always usually go to Ohio State in the Big Ten or even SC for that matter. But I'm curious with Drew Aller this weekend because he's going up against Oregon. Fantastic defense. Oregon's been one of the biggest sleeper teams so far this year. If you call Oregon a sleeper, the fact that they kind of don't have the same hype around them after the way they got blown out last year. I don't see it in Drew Aller yet. We'll see if he gets there. My number one pick will be Lenora Sellers from South Carolina. He's fantastic. And if you haven't watched him play, I really would highly recommend it.
When do we start talking about the USC kid, Maava?
Maava's fantastic.
He's junior, right?
Yeah, because he played at UNLV and then transferred last year, took over for Miller Moss halfway through the year.
I mean, 6'4", 230, has been playing amazing so far this year.
Well, so
took
that's
the Trojans back into the top 25.
They're at 21 right now. They're playing Illinois this weekend on Big Noon Kickoff, where Illinois obviously got smacked last week against Indiana. Jaden Maava looks fantastic. He completely took a major step forward. The last 4 games of the year last year, kind of looked at him. He went 3-1, but the offense didn't score a ton against UCLA and got in teams like that. They're the highest yardage in the country right now. They're one of the highest scoring teams in the country right now and lit up Michigan State at home at the Coliseum. So we'll see if they can take the show on the road. I think Maava is an option. Lenora Sellers would be my guy right now. I'm curious, though, with down the stretch. Like Arch Manning's going to have an opportunity in Florida, even though Florida's not great. That's a tough road start in the swamp. Drew Aller, like what quarterbacks just have? Sam Leavitt hasn't been quite the guy at Arizona State that you thought they would be. Him and Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson's going to be a top wide receiver pick next year. So I'm curious. It feels like there's a lot of names at quarterback, but who is going to break through as the season ends? I'm curious. It's still obviously super early, but there's a lot of options for QB needy teams.
Pretty disappointing so far, if we're being honest. For a draft class that we thought was going to be excellent next year, it seems like that list is dwindling.
Right, because Klubnik is out right now.
Right.
And then Arch has certainly fallen down the boards. He would get taken, but he's not right now a number one pick. And then we'll see with Aller. I'm curious what the draft boards look like as we get closer.
All right, what's next?
All right, let's head to the NFL. So Tom Brady, the big thing last week, obviously was sitting in the press box with the Raiders and had the headset on. A lot of people had problems with this, called him out. Tom Brady wrote today in a weekly newsletter that the only people who have who have a problem with this are paranoid and distrustful, according to Tom Brady. What are our thoughts on Tom Brady saying this?
I mean, I kind of feel like this is one that Tom Brady should just leave alone. Like, if he gets in trouble, he gets in trouble. You know what I mean? But he isn't getting in trouble, so I don't really know. It's a weekly newsletter.
Yeah, he
What
dropped.
is Tom Brady doing having a weekly newsletter?
That's
this
what
is
I thought.
The second or third time this has popped up where Tom Brady in a weekly newsletter says something. Dude, you're the GOAT. You're the greatest player of all time. You have a $100+ million contract with Fox for the next 10 years. You own part of an NFL team. Do you really need to be writing people every single week? It's bizarre to me that Tom says things like this every once in a while. I love Tom Brady. I think, hell, I paid a lot of money to go see him in his final year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I figured I shouldn't go the rest of my life without seeing Tom Brady play football live one time. But the fact that he even has this newsletter, he's getting a little overexposed to me. And the fact that we still hear about Tom Brady on a daily basis is kind of crazy. And I do think he's getting better in the broadcast booth. I just wish he would kind of shut up about stuff like this.
Well, it's like Brady's taking a shot. I have a problem with it, and there's a lot of people that did in the national media because Brady doesn't make sense. You retire, you come back, then you're in the broadcast booth getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars, and then you're sitting, but you're in team meetings. You're sitting there interviewing other teams.
You're talking to Chip Kelly on a semi-weekly basis.
Orlovsky said 2 to 3 times a week. Sitting up there with a headset.
No, that's from ESPN. So,
but we're supposed to just trust that he's not going to share information. You think Pete Carroll cares or Chip Kelly cares about the rules of the NFL, if they have a inside scoop on the Chargers or the Chiefs or the Broncos in division, you think that they're not going to be like, hey, Brady, don't tell us because we want to make sure we have good moral standards.
Right, but Brady's not going to go somewhere and refute the fact that Dan Orlovsky, who works for ESPN, Brady, who works for Fox, Brady's not going to go out and say, that's BS. I don't talk to Chip Kelly that often. And who knows where Dan Orlovsky gets that from. So that part's a little questionable to me. But
it's just...
Tom, we don't need a newsletter.
We don't need a newsletter, and you do get access. Like talking to John Schaefer, John gets to interview, he gets to talk to San Diego State, obviously, he's a play-by-play voice, and he gets to talk to people on the road, the other team they're playing. He has some insider knowledge that he doesn't just share with everyone. I'm not just saying that out. He has access to things. John Schaefer is a fantastic play-by-play host and doesn't divulge that on radio. If John was a national host, it was doing the Fox NFL game and getting insider information and then going to the other team and saying it, that would be a massive problem. Play-by-play guys have this. Play-by-play and color analysts have inside information no matter what they want to say because they're sitting at practice, they're watching them play, and there's ethical standards that come with that. And Brady seems to be blurring the lines on wanting to be an owner, a broadcaster, a player. It's confusing to me. And Brady, this kind of annoys me that he's still talking about this.
All right, who next?
All right, let's go to the Giants. Jackson Dart named quarterback 1. Brian Daboll said today, confirmed it, and he said it was his decision as to why he's starting quarterback. Who gets fired first, Brian Daboll or Mike McDaniel?
I actually think Brian Daboll's in a more secure position because he is breaking in a rookie quarterback. I think you get a little bit more grace, and by the way he shifted to Jackson Dart this early, that must mean he felt a little bit of pressure potentially from the higher ups with the New York Giants that maybe this wasn't going to be Brian Daboll's job if he just stuck with Russ and had a 2-win season. He might still have a 2-win season. Look ahead at the Giants schedule. It ain't easy. They still have 2 matchups against the Eagles. They're playing the Chargers this week. Like, it gets tough for Jackson Dart and the New York Giants, but I think Brian Daboll is going to be safe because he's breaking in a new quarterback. Mike McDaniel, if things keep going this way for the Dolphins, who for some reason Sammy wants to pick the Dolphins in Circa Survivor this week.
Against the Jets at home.
Don't really get that, if I'm being completely honest.
You're the guy that wants to pick the Chargers on the road against a team starting a brand new quarterback.
Yeah, because they're starting a brand new quarterback against one of the league's better defenses.
And you wanted to pick the Texans, who haven't scored at all against Tennessee.
Texans are playing against Tennessee.
Tennessee's defense has been good.
Okay, we don't need to fight about this right now. We still have 2 more days to fight about this, but Mike McDaniel's seat is far hotter than Brian Daboll's.
Daboll saved his job today by going to Jackson Dart. Russell Wilson, as of like an hour ago, says he's not retiring. Well, I guess he can still collect some paychecks on the bench. Russell Wilson's done. I'm sorry. He had a great career, won a Super Bowl, went to 2, almost won the second. Russell Wilson, it's not it anymore. He was always built on the fact that he was kind of a through the deep ball fantastic, but could also run. The run game is completely gone from him. The only thing he has left is the deep ball, and that can't win you games.
All right, let's take our first look at some of the NFL Week 4 matchups coming up next. Padres are in progress now, by the way. Sammy, he got 1, so we're on our way. Dylan Cease has 1 strikeout so far.
He got 1.
How many does he need?
He needs 6.
He needs 6. No, he needs 7, right?
Well, 6 we push, so I guess he needs 7, yeah.
He needs 7. We'll see if he can get there. It's San Diego Sports 760.
Leave him in the game, Schilt.
NFL Week 4 coming up next in San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. Yes, indeed. This weekend, the final home match of the season for SDFC, at least in the regular season. Darren Smith is going to be on with us in about 10 minutes to break that game down. We're also going to be giving away 2 pairs of tickets every hour on the hour coming up tomorrow right here on San Diego Sports 760. Hey, Thursday night, catch the Sean Lewis Coaches Show right here on San Diego Sports 760. John Schaefer, Rich Ormberger will sit down with the head coach to talk about the team's big win versus Cal and preview Saturday's game at Northern Illinois. The Sean Lewis Coaches Show this Thursday, 6 o'clock, right here on your home for the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. Kind of crazy schedule for the Aztecs so far this year. This is the first normal week that they've had, Sammy, because they start the season on a Thursday, which is weird. Then you have 10 days.
I don't like the Thursday thing.
Me neither. 10 days to get ready for Washington State, which you go on the road, you lose. And then you have 14 days off before you play against Cal, dominate at home. This is their first normal week of the season, and we're 5 weeks in.
Well, I'm excited for this game too, because we're going to see if last week was obviously phenomenal, beating up on a Cal team. Now you got Northern Illinois.
Can the defense travel? That's the biggest question mark.
Can the defense travel? And Northern Illinois' defense is legit. Their offense is not great. But they did. Let's not forget, this would be a big win. I mean, they beat Notre Dame. They almost kept Notre Dame out of the playoff last year when they ended up going to the national championship game. They beat them 16-14 in South Bend. So currently, I believe last time I checked, San Diego State was favored by 2.5. See if the offense take it on the road and the defense. But that would be big, man. Stacking a couple wins together.
Be huge. Going into conference play 3-1 is much better than 2-2. All right, NFL primetime games this week. There's some good ones, man. Seahawks, Cardinals in Arizona, kicking it off tomorrow night on Prime Video. This is not an eye roll for Al Michaels. This is a fantastic matchup.
I'm excited for that game.
West. Well, it's huge and storylines everywhere. We talked about it with Stan Lazinski, our fantasy football expert, talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. I think a lot of people, myself and Sammy obviously included, had high hopes for Marvin Harrison Jr. coming into this season. He's got all the potential in the world. Excellent body, pause. But he really does. Dude's a freak of nature athlete. Great speed, great catch radius, great everything. But it just hasn't really worked out yet at the NFL level. College numbers, fantastic. NFL, not really. And last week, just drop after drop after drop, really played the Cardinals out of that game for a little bit. So you look at Marvin Harrison Jr., and is this a get-right game? Primetime, Thursday night football at home? Can he and Kyler finally put this together?
Well, I'm excited for tomorrow night's game because you look at the NFC West, and you got the Niners, who are 3-0, but
3-0, baby.
But you lose Nick Bosa, so you're going to see where that's at.
Don't worry, they just activated somebody off their practice squad named Robert Beal Jr.
Oh wow, he's coming to save the day, man.
Defensive end.
Where do you play in college, Fletch?
Don't know. Never heard of him before. Just now.
And then look at the Cardinals and the Seahawks. The Seahawks lose a tight one of the Niners in week 1. And then they go into Pittsburgh and whoop up on them. They destroy a Saints team. It was god awful. That was one of the biggest beatdowns I've seen in the NFL in a long time. And then on the Cardinal side of things, you beat a couple not great teams. You play the Niners close, but the offense really couldn't come through. And the Marvin Harrison, Kyler Murray connection. I'm excited to see who plays better tomorrow night. Kyler Murray, Sam Darnold, because you're looking at, the winner of this game is 3-1. And you start thinking in the NFC, is one of these teams a playoff team? Could they win the division, especially with the Nick Bosa injury going down? But especially, I think either team is certainly in the wild card mix. And I called the Cardinals going to the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there. I'm surprised with Seattle. And we probably shouldn't be because Sam
Darnold's been fantastic.
Sam Darnold everyone forgot, was in the MVP conversation.
So about week 15 last year.
And remember when they whooped up on Green Bay?
Yeah.
And it was like fantastic. Then he goes to Detroit and loses, and then he puts up the clunker against the Rams. So really 2 games kind of ruined all the Sam Darnold hype. I'm excited to see tomorrow's matchup because I feel like it could really propel a team forward.
And the Seahawks' only loss this year was against the 49ers in week 1 when the 49ers were mostly healthy. And if you forgot, Nick Bosa won that game for the Niners on a strip sack on the last second. But Sam Darnold in his last 2 games, he's been fantastic. He's throwing his connection with Jackson Smith and Jigba has been fantastic. The running back room has performed well. Zach Charbonnet missed last week for the Seahawks, but looked amazing the first 2 weeks of the season. Kenneth Walker is just doing normal Kenneth Walker
You
stuff.
think Kyler Murray or Sam Darnold, either of them are franchise quarterbacks?
I think we're finding out that Sam Darnold absolutely is. Sam Darnold had such a weird start to his career, and he got drafted to the place that ruins quarterbacks better than anyone with the New York Jets.
And then went to the Panthers.
And then he had that stigma about him, right? But he starts his career with 2 bad organizations on bad football teams with bad rosters, and everyone says, oh, Sam Darnold must also suck. Well, Sam Darnold he sits a year in San Francisco, and then he goes out, is in the MVP conversation the next year in Minnesota. Sam Darnold's not a bad quarterback. He was in 2 bad situations. That's a very important line to distinguish. Totally. And I think Sam Darnold is showing to you with what he did last year and what he's done so far this year is that he absolutely can be a franchise quarterback. In fact, I feel better about Sam Darnold than I do about Kyler Murray.
Kyler is, I agree with you on Sam Darnold. I do think he got unfairly cast off. You got to remember, Sam Darnold was in a draft where Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, MVPs, Baker Mayfield was completely resurrected his career. So when Sam Darnold isn't that, he gets thought of as a complete bust, I think, early on in his career. And Sam Darnold has been a good quarterback when he resurrected with the Vikings. Now it looks like to be the same thing with Seattle. I think sometimes the quarterbacks you're drafted alongside obviously play a role into it, because if you look at the Jets, you could have had Josh Allen. Could have had Lamar Jackson. So you kind of get held to that standard. But I do think Sam Darnold is a franchise quarterback. And then Kyler Murray's weird to me, because remember when the Cardinals had the number one seed in the NFC a few years ago, and everyone was like, the Cardinals are the next team that's going to break out, and they're really going to take hold in the NFC. And Kyler has moments where you look at him and go, he could be a really good player. And then there's moments just like, what the hell is going on? The Niners got a really good defense, but last week was unacceptable. I mean, Marvin Harrison played a big role in that, had some major drops in that game. But you got to start tight end Trey McBride. You wonder kind of down the list of receiver who's going to be there.
Well, and think about what they had. They had the 49ers without Brock Purdy, without Nick Bosa for most of the game, and without George Kittle. And you couldn't get a win on that.
Right. And so you look at like the Cardinals, they're a team that I think we're looking at Miami as, if the season keeps going the way we all think it's going to keep going, Tua's gone. They're going to be looking for a quarterback. I think the Jets can be looking for a quarterback. Justin Fields, outside of that first week, has not been in and has been dealing with an injury. And then you wonder, if you're the Cardinals, if Kyler Murray is next, because if the Cardinals are picking, if they tank their record, which I don't think they're going to do, I think the Cardinals are going to be a decent team. But are we having conversations next year about them drafting a quarterback? Because at some point you can't just keep running back with Kyler and you keep doing the same thing every year.
Yeah, I'd agree. Other primetime games coming up this week: Packers, Cowboys, Sunday Night Football, and then 2 Monday night games, which I'm not a huge fan of, but Jets, Dolphins, Bengals, Broncos. One of those games looks like it's going to be our Circa Survivor pick. All right, before we get to Darren Smith on the other side, NFL Hall of Fame announcement happened a little bit earlier today. Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald are most likely locks as first-time Hall of Famer or first ballot Hall of Famers. Other people in their first year of eligibility: Phillip Rivers, Alex Smith, Frank Gore, LaShawn McCoy, David DeCastro, and Marquise Pouncey, who are both offensive linemen, Greg Olsen, the tight end, Jason Witten, the tight end. When I saw this list come out, it put one thing pretty clearly in my mind. I do not think Phillip Rivers is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Not that he's never going to get in, but it's not happening this year, man.
Like McCoy's going to be in.
Well, see, I think Frank Gore has a better case than LaShawn McCoy. I really do. Frank Gore has a longer career and more numbers than LaShawn McCoy does. But I think Larry Fitzgerald, Drew Brees, absolute locks. I think that Jason Witten is going to get in before Phillip Rivers. I think Frank Gore gets in before Phillip Rivers.
Witten's getting in because he's a Cowboy, and he should be there. But yeah.
And he's got a lot of history behind him with numbers that he put up from the tight end position. But you also have to think about the guys who are a little bit backlogged right now, which like Eli Manning's on that list. And I think Eli Manning probably gets in before Phillip Rivers.
I'm curious. I would curious what San Diego would think, because obviously Brees and Rivers played here. Is Brees? I agree with you that Brees will get in over Rivers.
He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer because of the Super Bowl, because of all the numbers that he put up.
Is Brees that much better of a quarterback though than Phillip Rivers?
I don't think so. You can go through a few different quarterbacks who are going to make the Hall of Fame, no doubt, who I think Phillip Rivers had a better career than. I think Phillip Rivers had a better career than Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger rode a defense to a Super Bowl. So it's
but he had two. The problem with him and Eli, they each had two.
First, and they both have iconic moments. The Santonio Holmes throw in the end zone.
Eli took down
David Tyree
helmet
catch
twice.
Like it's unfortunate. They have iconic moments you could put on the resume, but Phillip Rivers, I think if you were just looking at pure quarterbacking position, Phillip Rivers was a better player than both of them. Whatever. That's an argument.
I think Rivers had less around him than those other quarterbacks.
D. Smith jumping on the show next. Darren Smith talking some SDFC. Let's get to it. San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
The sport's sponsored by Wendy's. Padres currently facing the Brewers. The bottom or the end of the first inning, it is 0-0. Dylan Cease currently has one strikeout so far in the game. And tomorrow, Thursday night football, we got the Cardinals hosting the Seahawks. Seahawks are currently a 1.5-point favorite in Arizona for the Thursday night NFC West showdown. Get two number one selling bacon cheeseburgers and fast food, Wendy's JBC, plus medium fries and soft drink for just $8. Total game changer. Order today. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Request $8 JBC meal deal to obtain discount. Claim per independent marketing research company.
San Diego Sports 760, Ben Fletcher, Sammy Long. We're with you till 2:00 today. John and Jim will take over then. Do me a favor right now. Head on over to sandiegofc.com and get your tickets before they sell out for this upcoming Saturday night. Final home match of the season. We're going to be giving away tickets all day tomorrow on this station from noon to 6. We're giving away 2 pairs every single hour to help us celebrate SDFC week here on San Diego Sports 760. How about we bring in the color commentary on most of the broadcast? D. Smith, welcome to the show, my friend.
Sir.
What is up? What is up? Good to see you guys. Am I good? Am I good? Can you guys hear me? Everything settled? All right, good. All right, good. Good to see you guys. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, this is really good timing before we go too far down the road. I hope you don't mind. I have somebody in my fantasy league who's trying to get Ricky Pearsall from me. And I feel like this is a blessing that this is the segment that I'm on today because Fletch, I rely on you for all of my San Francisco 49er information here. Now it's Jordan Morris, running back. I need a running back. I have a little bit of a surplus at wide receiver. Pearsall missed practice today. What are your initial thoughts?
Look, I think Ricky Pearsall is scratching the surface right now of what he can be. This is going to be jaded, Darren, and I have Ricky in almost every fantasy league I have. But we had our fantasy football expert on earlier today, Stan Lazinski, who does this for a living. And Sammy, what did he say about Ricky Pearsall?
He was very high on Ricky Pearsall, but Darren, I will say getting Niners advice from him is a little bit.
That's why it's not me. This is from Stan Lazinski. All right.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. We had an objective guy around here, but I just saw that he's missing practice today. So now I'm trying to dump this guy before it's something serious. So
look, it's the 49ers. If you're relying on one of a 49er to stay healthy, you're in bad shape to start with, Darren. Hey,
right. Exactly.
We've been talking pretty much all season just about the historic season that SDFC is going through. And it's awesome. Sammy and I have been to a couple games. The El Chucky Lozano chant, it sticks in my head like glue. But from your point of view, someone who's fought for soccer to come to San Diego for as long as you fought for it, Darren, to have it here, what is the significance of this opening season for SDFC and how great it's been?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been a success no matter what, quite honestly. I think that we're at the point now with 3 regular season games to go, including the final regular season game at Snapdragon Stadium coming up this Saturday, 7:00 on San Diego Sports 760, that you start thinking about, well, they're on the top of the Western Conference standings and they're in the race for the Supporters Shield. And are they, we sort of apply this Padres kind of standard to an expansion team, which is crazy, right? Like we start setting ourselves up for some form of disappointment when fact of the matter is in expansion history, usually it's just get a team on the field and see what can happen. But this team has spoiled us a little bit. They've already equaled the all-time record for most wins in an expansion season, most points in an expansion season. So their next win and their next point will break that. And you can make the claim that this is the best expansion team ever. And that feels like it should be enough, right? Yet I know because I'm around it and I listen and I read that people are starting to think, well, what about the playoffs? And what about the top seed in the West? And what about the Supporter Shield? So I think what I'm saying is that they have over-delivered on this first season, and I'm enjoying every single second of it, and I know I'm not alone.
Darren, in your opinion, so SDFC currently sits atop the Western Conference. Vancouver's a couple points behind them, then Minnesota and LAFC. Who do you think would be the biggest challenge for SDFC in the postseason when they get there?
Well, I think Vancouver, you'd have to say right now. Now, Vancouver plays tonight, and they still have mathematically, it is theirs, their Western Conference to lose because they played 2 fewer games because they're involved in all these other tournaments. So they played 2 fewer games, but they're also a little bit beat up. They've been good all season. I think they present a pretty unique challenge. They went out there, they added significantly during the transfer window, Major League Soccer's sort of trade deadline, where they went out there and got a big couple of pieces of their puzzle. So I do view them as a bit dangerous. You might have to travel and play there. But again, like SDFC spoiled us. They have gone on the road and won 7 straight and not lost in 8 straight. So they've been really, really good away from Snapdragon Stadium. But I do think that Vancouver side, they loaded up kind of like what we see in baseball, where they were good enough to make the playoffs, but some of the pieces that they added, it feels like what they're saying is these are the pieces that are going to get us to an MLS Cup.
Darren Smith joining us today on San Diego Sports 760. You're going to hear Darren coming up this Saturday alongside Adrian Garcia Marquez, who is becoming quickly my favorite broadcast team.
So
it's like
good.
You
He's
and
so
Adrian,
good.
We've had Adrian on the show a couple times, Darren. That dude is the perfect radio guest. But it's like you and him, John and Rich. I don't really know where to go. I feel like we're pretty spoiled here.
He is so good, man. Like just even sometimes when he goes into a goal call and you know, he's got such a knack for the big moments, which in this sport, I think it's everything, right? Because it's low scoring. What are you going to get? 2, 3, maybe 4 on a crazy night. And he's so good in the big moments, and being next to him for some of these big goals, some of these late game winners in the 95th minute against LA Galaxy, I do kind of turn and I'd look when he goes into his goal call, because I think he has not a bad experience. I think he's like, and you're like I asked him sometimes after, I was like, what, do you know what you said? He's like, no. And then we do the post game show and listens to the highlights. He's like, he just laughs. He's like, what am I doing? You know, so he's been so good. And it's really been a lot of fun being next to him. And like I said, having his voice there for some of these most historic moments, I think is, it's just been a great time to be next to that guy.
And it's been awesome to watch from our side too. We had Adrian on the show like the first week of SDFC playing, I think, and he immediately came on. It was like, we need to change up your guys' imaging. We got to Fletch out some more.
Yep.
We gotta and you can tell it means a lot to him, which is the coolest part. Darren, coming up this Saturday night, what's going to be the biggest challenge for SDFC, bringing in San Jose into Snapdragon Stadium? What the styles of play? How do you think SDFC matches up?
Should match up pretty well. San Jose is not a team that's going to come in here, especially not at this stage of the season, and do what some of these other teams have done, which is just be really defensive and kind of sit back. You know, they call the mid block, the low block, just try to defend, clip a goal, and sneak out of here with 1-1 or 1-0. You know, so they're not at that point. They've got to try to score, and they're one of the best goal scoring clubs in all of Major League Soccer. So it's part of their identity, which I think is in the best interest of San Diego Football Club. But I do think also, you know, this being the last regular season match, guys, before the playoffs, it would be nice to play your last. There's, for whatever reason, been a little bit of a stumble here over the last 5-6 home games. Just one win. And I would love for this team to, you know, have a big party, have a celebration, walk out of there with 3 points, set these records in front of the home fans, sweep the state of California. We all know how important that is. You would be 6-0 in the state of California, 7-0 if you want to include Tijuana, because technically Baja California. So I just want them to play their final home regular season match and leave a good taste in their mouth, so that they aren't thinking for the next couple of weeks, what's going on with us at home? You know, and I don't think they're doing that, but you know the way sports is, it's so mental. So, you know, going out there, celebrating in front of the fans, setting these records in front of Frontera SD and all the supporters, that's what I'm looking forward to. But I think the style will certainly lend itself to that kind of game.
We hear a lot about, obviously, the stars, Anders Dreyer, Chucky Lozano. Darren, in your opinion, what's one player you think that doesn't get talked about enough on SDFC?
Oh, Yepe Tverskov. No doubt about it. Number 6. He is he's Baryshnikov with the ball at his feet in the middle of the field. He's the guy that does everything. He is the heartbeat of the team. He is the drummer of the band. He is the guy that nobody in Major League Soccer has the ball, has more touches, has more completed passes, has more interceptions. He does everything. And you know, he is such a great player. I'm so glad that the league rewarded him with a trip to the All-Star game, because you think sometimes that All-Star games are just they're popularity contests, right? Even by their very nature. And oftentimes they're very statistically driven. And by that, you think goals and you think assists. And that's not the kind of player that Yepe is. So for him to come over here and dominate the way he has, and to get recognized and be rewarded for it, and to watch it every day, I'm telling you, like if you were to just go to the game and say, I'm not going to watch the ball, or you're going to watch a replay, just watch what it is this guy does. He is a magician with the ball at his feet. And it's just been a delight to watch this guy all season.
Darren Smith on with us today on San Diego Sports 760. Darren, we got to talk about the job Mikey Varis has done. I don't know if he was a super well-known quantity before he got to SDFC. He was with the U.S. international team. He even was the interim head coach for a little bit, but he's a young guy, and he comes over to take the head of SDFC, and it feels like he's just been incredible since he's gotten here. Every decision he's made seems to work out. What can you say about the job that Mikey Varis has done in his inaugural season also as a head coach of MLS team?
Yeah, and I think one of the things I like most about Mikey is just talking to him as a human being. He's the kind of guy that before a radio show, like, you would feel inspired just spending a couple of minutes with Mikey. He's incredibly thoughtful. He pays attention. When you're talking to him, he's engaged, he's listening. He does all of those kind of things. But, Fletch, I think your point is a good one, and it's one that was fair at the time to wonder, this guy has never been the head coach of a first division team before. So he had coached in a couple of academy systems in Sacramento and Dallas. You're right. He coached the under-20 youth national team for the U.S. And then he was an interim manager, even though they'd already replaced the guy that he was interim for. So he knew that he wasn't long for that job. And it's fair. Like, you go from managing kids to now you're managing Chucky Lozano. Like, what's that going to be like? Is Chucky going to respect this person? And I don't mean that to cast any sort of aspersions against Lozano, but you don't know. It's a guy that's playing in Europe. He's playing for some of the bigger clubs. He's winning things, right? This is a big name. It's a big star. And, I have a couple of friends who work and say, man, this guy has done as good a job developing a culture. You can find a lot of people to do the X's and O's in sports, but developing a culture that ranks right up there with the creation of any culture that some of these people have seen in any other sport and in any other setting. So I give him a ton of credit. He's inspiring. I often say this on the midweek show and in other places. I find myself saying to my wife some of the things that I hear Mikey talking about having a growth mindset and a childlike curiosity. Like, it's not just the soccer. It's the way he goes about it overall that I think is so impressive. And he is proving it, how good of a motivator he is and a tactician and all the other things. So I can't say enough about the guy, guys. I really can't. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his. And I do think the world of him, and I'm enjoying every single second of that. And I hope he's here for a long time, because guys like this sometimes, right? We talk about it in college football. Sean Lewis, like if he's really good, then some Power 5 program, and with him, you're like, I hope he's not too good too soon. That some European club or some South American club is going to come pick him up. But he's here now, and he's ours, and he's doing a great job.
Darren, I'm curious your thoughts on the U.S. men's national team. Pochettino coming over. There was a lot going on in the Gold Cup between Pulisic, not playing, and some of the former players, Landon Donovan and Alexi Lawless, critiquing them. What are your thoughts on them going to the World Cup next year? How far do you think it's realistically that they could go?
I'm pretty down on it, to be honest. I'm down on it not just because I don't know that they're going to, make a deep run. I'm just down because it feels like we are wasting this opportunity, which comes along once a generation, which is to host a World Cup. People should be excited about this, and people should feel good about this. And it feels the complete opposite. And maybe some of this is a little bit overrated, and some of this, doesn't impact the general public who doesn't pay as close attention. But the fact that you have current stars and former stars that are going back and forth with one another, it's not productive. The fact that the results haven't been there doesn't make me feel optimistic about their chances. And this is a tremendous on-ramp for U.S. soccer. This is the most important stretch, perhaps, that this team and this federation has ever had. Even more important, perhaps, than 1994, the last time that we hosted the World Cup, the only other time, because this is where you're supposed to be putting the rocket fuel into your tank. And it feels like they've just poured some sugar in their tank instead. And that's disappointing for me, because that's the worst part about it. You cannot guarantee success. Crazy things happen in tournaments and sports, as we all know. But to shoot yourself in the foot like this and to not take advantage of the opportunity, to me, is the worst part. And that's the part that has me feeling worse about the whole operation.
Darren Smith, you're the absolute best, man. I miss talking to you on a daily basis. Glad we got to catch up today. We'll see what happens this Saturday. We're all rooting for SDFC. Good luck on the call alongside Adrian Garcia Marquez.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you as always. And if you're there on Saturday night, stop by, say hello.
Yeah, will do, man. D Smith, one of the best to ever do it here in San Diego. All right, quick break here. We will close this thing out coming up next and let you know what we're doing tomorrow to celebrate SDFC on the other side. It's San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. That was fun getting Darren on the show, man. I haven't talked to Darren in a while.
Yeah, that was awesome, man.
Seriously, one of the best to ever do it here in San Diego, and that was good chatting with him, even if he did poke fun at my Niners a little bit. But you know what? We're all good.
Yeah, he's a realist about your team.
I honestly think if it's Jordan Mason, I think that's who he said the trade was for. I think that might make sense because you think about Pearsall, his value is going to go down in a couple weeks once Ayuk comes back. So if he's getting Jordan Mason, who might be an RB1 the rest of the season, depending on Aaron Jones.
This is not a shot question. This is like praising Ricky Pearsall. Is his volume really going to go down if Pearsall keeps playing this way? Is he going to take over the 1 and Ayuk's the 2? He hasn't played in a year and a half.
See, one thing we know about Kyle Shanahan is he's a little salty. So it's like you look back to those Atlanta Falcons days. Do you remember the year where Julio Jones had like 1,500 yards receiving, but 2 touchdowns?
Okay.
That was purposeful. That was Kyle Shanahan being like, this dude's been popping off in the offseason about how much money he deserves. We're going to give him no touchdowns this year. So you look at what's happening now with Ricky Pearsall, who's been the good soldier the whole time. Brandon Ayuk was crying a year and a half ago about his contract, and then he gets hurt 2 weeks into the season. Pearsall may still get these reps. I honestly don't know. And he's been amazing.
Yeah, Pearsall's great. 760 says, I missed Stan's interview. You can go back on the podcast, check that out. He said,
also, what time did Stan say he's going live tonight? I think it was 5:30.
I believe it was 5:30.
Dynasty price check on TikTok. We should all jump in that tonight and let Stan know that his interviews in San Diego work.
Hell yeah. He said, who did he say to start? I have Marvin Harrison Jr. and I'm not starting him. 760. I'm with you too. So I was the idiot that just traded for him and Terry McLaurin.
You just traded for Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Buy low, baby. Buy low. And I was asking a question. I was like, Stan, I wanted Stan to reaffirm what I was thinking. I was like, and then Stan comes on here and goes, no, Marvin, absolutely not. On the bench. I was like, no, Stan. Stan's fantastic though. I love him being on the show every week. He's hitting on all his stuff. His stuff on Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. That came true the week of. He said it.
It's just a information overload when we have Stan on, but that's a Wednesday repeater for you guys. So every Wednesday, make sure you get your fantasy football questions in. All right. That's just about going to do it for us today. Tomorrow, big day on this station, San Diego Sports 760 from noon to 6. Every single hour, Sammy and Brent are going to be working overtime because every hour we have 2 pairs of tickets to give away to SDFC's final home match of the season coming up this Saturday. So be listening tomorrow, starting at noon, all the way through the end of John and Jim. If you want to win a pair of tickets to a game that's going to be awesome here in San Diego, it's Fan Appreciation Night. A badass hat presented by Saquon Casino is going to be given away to the first 30,000 fans. If you want to be one of those fans, be listening tomorrow, noon to 6, every hour, 2 separate giveaways for SDFC's final home match of the regular season.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Not sure where that applies, but I like that it got into our show.
Just want to play it. I thought it's the truth that if you're listening tomorrow, you're going to win tickets.
We'll see you tomorrow. John and Jim coming up next. Thank you for being here today.